Anywho, welcome back. We're going to be in Jeremiah chapter 12 this week. Last week we ended kind of on a low note. I feel like this week ends on a high note, depending on how you feel about some of the things we're going to talk about at the end. So I'll give you kind of a brief overview of what we're going to cover. So Jeremiah chapter 12 there's a lot of stuff. And that's why it's recorded, because guess what you can do? You can pause. You can come back to it. I went back and forth on whether or not I was going to just cover the first two verses and do a part one again, but we got time. We have time. There's so much information, and it's a shameless plug. It's a shameless plug as a educator when I say you have to read your Bible, because there's some things to keep with the timeline. Not that it's a secret, like you can read ahead. That's your business. But to keep with the way we're progressing through Jeremiah, where it's kind of like unfolding in front of us, I'm not going to give you everything that's happening in 12 that's happening in like 40 and 50, because that's going to spoil it. I want you guys to, if you're reading ahead, I want you to see it for yourself, because it's going to jump out at you. And really, that's what happens when we read and study the Bible the correct way, not just as a tool to uncover some information, but as a complete narrative of Yah's mind, Yah's heart, and his intentions for his people. You begin to like see those nuances. And so my challenge, I guess, as you read, and my shameless plug was to read, not just Jeremiah, but your whole Bible, especially Torah, so that you understand why certain things are being said. But the reason why is because you won't get caught up in these like weird doctrinal places. People can't come to you with things and say, see, this is what this says. If you read the scripture as it's intended to be read without your personal interjection of your denominations, your biases, your hatred for other cultures and peoples, your traumas, which is difficult. That's why I believe the word says it washes you, because to actually understand Yah's heart, we do have to begin to process those things. And we kind of got into that at the end of last week. And I say that because in Jeremiah chapter 12, I hit a strange duality as I was reading. And this week was, I don't want to say a struggle getting through it, chapter 12, but I honestly feel like I read Jeremiah chapter 12 maybe 35 times. And it felt like it just something wasn't clicking for me. And I believe going into it with any previous filters, any previous ideas of what is being said, puts those blocks up, I think, for all of us. And so as I was going through it this week, I kind of kept getting stuck on the first part, because as we progress, you'll see it's like Jeremiah says something, and then Yah responds. And it wasn't until I really sat with it. And I love the Shabbat because everything has to stop. You know, you're kind of doing stuff in between the week. So everything stops on Shabbat, and I'm sitting there with it. And I'm like, wow, Jeremiah talks and then Yah responds. And it very much reminded me of Job. So we're going to see a little bit of Job today. Some questions came up to me about who is wicked and what is wicked, and what Yah is doing with that. And so we're going to kind of hit a little bit of Psalm 73. We're going to go back to Deuteronomy chapter 9 and see what Yah says about the wicked, and why this particular context surrounding Yah and wickedness and prosperity. And Jeremiah is kind of like befuddled about everything that's happening. So we're going to kind of unpack that. And then it kind of progresses pretty quickly. But it's the end part that I think is going to be a challenge for some people. And I challenge you to be challenged. I challenge you to be challenged about what Yah is saying. And I am going to kind of spoiler alert and jump forward in one particular area at the end, because I know you guys are going to say, oh, Golda's completely lost it. So I have to give you a verse at the end that is going to be almost without context, but hopefully with enough context that you feel hungry enough to continue to search toward what I'm saying. And I think I got this gray hair right here this week, by the way. It's unruly. You see I just popped through, it's like, there it is. Yeah, that happened. Okay. So we're going to jump right into Jeremiah chapter 12 without any other further background information. And I made it kind of big this week, so when it's recorded, it's easier to see. So I'll probably do a little bit more scrolling if that is bothersome, I'll take some kind of poll or survey amongst the community and see what they think about that. All right, Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 1. And we're kind of going to hit 1 and 2, but we're going to just look at 1 for a second and how it opens up. I'm going to read it as it's read here. I actually went back through and wrote my own translation of 1 because I felt like it didn't do it justice. So we're going to look at that. And if you are a Hebrew student or you can work your way through the text, I suggest when you come across passages where the wording is very King Jamesy, that's not a word, that you go back through and you put it back together in a way that makes historical, contextual, and cultural sense so that you can kind of fully understand what's happening. All right, so Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 1 starts like this. Righteous art thou, O Yah, when I plead with thee. Yet let me talk with thee of thy judgments. Wherefore doth the way of the wicked prosper? And wherefore are all they happy that deal very treacherously? So it's wordy, it's Old English, it has a thing. So I kind of I looked at it and I'm like, okay, he says, righteous are you, oh yeah. What does it mean to just flat out say, okay, yeah, you are righteous. Yeah, you are right. The real heavy hitting, I guess, definition I would put right here is he's talking to Yah and he's stating something about Yah first. Jeremiah is confused about something. Jeremiah is a little agitated, as you would be too, if the people around you were trying to kill you. He ends off with saying, you know what, Yah, go ahead, have vengeance on them and let me see it. So internally, there's a struggle to know that your family's against you, to know that Yah has called you to do something. And really the response is not what you thought. You're like, oh, these people, they say they love Yah. So if I come and I tell them what Yah says, they should be excited to hear from Yah. Well, that's not the case. They wanted to kill him. And so he's in conversation with Yah, but he leads in the conversation and the inquiry with a particular disposition. And this is super, super important. He's not challenging Yah, but he is expressing deep emotion. And I'm going to show you, he's a little agitated. And I'm going to give you what the agitation is, where it's coming from. So he starts with this, righteous art thou. A better and probably more palatable translation for that is, yeah, you're objective in your justice. Like I know when you execute justice and you execute judgment, you've thought everything all the way through. So I'm not coming at you on whether or not you've thought this through. He says, and when I plead with you, he says, when I'm agitated in my mind or in my spirit, and I want to talk or converse, and even the word almost contend, like I want you to go back and forth with me to get me to understand because you love me and you sent me to do this task. He says, I want to do that so I can find balance or reason with what you've allowed me to see. Because as we all know, Jeremiah is seeing two things happening at one time. Yah has given him foresight as a prophet. So he's seeing what's coming, but then he also is seeing what is right in front of him. And he also has, coupled with that, love, compassion. He understands adversarial components of other nations coming. He understands the blessing of Yah. He understands Torah. So he's like, you've allowed me, and I'm grateful for that. You're objective. You're not just doing things, but you've even discussed with me and made me to understand why you're doing certain things. And we've seen that literally from Jeremiah chapter 1 to now. Yah showing his heart. So he says, and still, in this particular case, I've heard everything you've said up to this point, and I just want to talk with you about your judgments. He didn't say judgment. He says the judgments that you're executing. And the word for judgment, we've gone over this in the past, is literally to separate, to speak to it, and then to like look at it intensely to come to a conclusion. So he's like, so yeah, I'm calling it judgment, and I'm not calling it anger. I'm not calling it something like you're flippantly upset. He says, I know that you have divided, you've spoke to, and you've contained and watched what the people are doing, and there's just something I need to understand. And he says, why does the way of the wicked prosper? And I'm like, ooh, that's so loaded. He says, why does the way of the wicked prosper? Jeremiah he's asking a question, but in the question, he's come to a particular conclusion. And what is that conclusion? As I've surveyed, I'm looking at people who are wicked and they are prospering. These two words here have to be known. We have to know what they mean. And so we're going to spend a little time looking at why Jeremiah has an issue with the prosperity of the wicked. We're going to look at other people who have an issue with the prosperity of the wicked. And we're going to look at the scriptures that would cause him to kind of be a little agitated or unsettled with what he's seeing. So we have an issue, if you will, with these wicked ones. So we're going to go through, we're going to look at Deuteronomy 9. I'm going to start in this, start way back and then work our way forward. Because in Deuteronomy 9, Moshe is talking to the children of Israel, and he's making a statement regarding Yah and his choosing of a people. And this is really important because we get within this passage the context of what wickedness is, what Yah saw, what Israel had done. And so when we look all the way forward at Jeremiah, we understand that one, these are Yah's judgments based upon what the people have done previously, what they know they should not be doing, and what they and the consequences of those things. And this is probably going to be my first challenge, and it actually goes toward the end of this. So if you listen to this first part and you're like, I don't care about anything she says in the middle, I'm going to fast forward and I want to know what she meant by this end part. This is a foundation that'll be unpacked at the end. And that being, the first challenge is we have to move toward looking at our own wickedness. This passage here is very dual because we know that Jeremiah is upset with the actions of the people, and we're going to see that. But then Yah highlights in the rest of chapter 12 a duality, because there's also this undergirded part of this, that the wicked nations who are not aligned with Yah are getting ready to prosper because they're going to overtake Judah. They're going to overtake Jerusalem. And there is a certain amount of prosperity when a nation goes on a conquest and then is allowed to oppress another nation. You'll see where I'm going with that in just a second. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 9. I'm going to try to read and not stop, but I will read with understanding, if you will. So if I feel the need to interject or put something in so that it makes sense and I'm not just narrating, that's perfectly fine. But I find it to be very, very imperative when we go through certain parts of the scripture to understand what Yah has said. And I know plenty of you have probably already read through Torah. You've probably read the whole Bible. But putting things into a proper framework so that we understand them and going back to reading, there's no shame in that. And I always want to dismantle that idea in our minds that, oh, I know what that passage says, or I know what scripture says. I've read that before. This is not something that's to be read and sat to the side. We're going to read through it. And there's beauty in that, and you'll see. Okay, Deuteronomy 9. Hear, O Israel, thou art to pass over Jordan this day to go in and to possess nations greater and mightier than yourself. Point 1. There are nations greater and mightier than ourselves. There are cities great and fenced up to heaven, a people great and tall, the children of the Anakims, whom thou knowest, and whom thou hast heard say, who can stand before the children of Anak? Understand therefore this day that Yah your Elohim is he which goeth over before thee as a consuming fire. He shall destroy them, and he shall bring them down before your face. So he's doing it. He's destroying them because y'all don't have the power to do it. And we talked about that in previous lessons. You need to be attached to the power to have the inheritance. So there needs to be obedience. He says, so that thou shalt drive them out and destroy them quickly, as Yah has said unto thee. So he says, look, when y'all go over there and y'all start fighting, y'all start winning, oh, don't think it's because of you. That's because Yah has gone before you, and he's put that power in you. We're going to see that word in just a second. And he says it's going to happen quickly. Verse 4, speak not thou in thine heart after that Yah, your Elohim, has cast them off out before thee, saying, for my righteousness, Yah hath brought me into this possessed land. But for the wickedness, he said, Pete, this is not you. Get that right. He says, no, but for the wickedness of these nations, Yah doth drive them out before thee. The word here for wickedness, literally, the literal translation is lawbreakers. They have broken Yah's law. This is important to understand, and you'll see it. There's places in the Bible where it says, and Yah gave them time till their sin and their iniquity was full. The idea of iniquity is the idea of twisting something, which means that you had something real and you twisted it. So putting into the context that they're just bad people that can be overtaken because Yah chose a people is an improper context. The reality is that the people had an opportunity for obedience and gave up their opportunity, which means that the same thing, I'm gonna say, that happened to them can happen to you. And he sets that up. He says, no, don't think this is because of your righteousness. No, it's for the wickedness of the nations, their wickedness, their law breaking, their punishment and separation, them being driven out like chaff, the fact that Yah could not justify them, the fact that they hated Yah, so he didn't help them. That's why you're able to go in. So he says, but for the wickedness of these nations, Yah hath driven them out before thee, not for your righteousness, he says it again, or for the uprightness of your heart. Do you go in to possess this land or their land? But for the wickedness of these nations doth Yah drive them out before thee, that he may perform the word which Yah sware unto your forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Understand, therefore, that Yah your Elohim giveth thee not this land to, how many times are you going to say it? Understand that Yah your Elohim giveth thee not this good land to possess it for your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, how about this? Remember and forget not how you provoked Yah your Elohim to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that you did depart out of the land of Egypt until you came unto this place. Ye have been rebellious against Yah the whole time. As we're reading through this, I'm going to have you just kind of shift your framework, because sometimes when things are old, you're like, yeah, they was real ratchet. I saw they was doing all okay. How about you put yourself in this position? So go back to the transatlantic slave trade. Go ahead and give it 400 years of misuse of religion and abuse and all the atrocities. And then go on the other side of that. Go on the other side of that, and then interject yourself in here in this present time as you've been awakened, as you're understanding your heritage, and as Yah is promising to outpour his blessing. He's like, do not think that I'm doing this for you because you've been so good. And then run your Rolodex and run your ancestral Rolodex, and then just amen, Selah. Okay, frame it that way, because a lot of times we go, he was saying that to them. He's saying that to us now too. So don't think that you know who you are and you're being given the ability to understand his word and be able to walk in it and keep his feast days because you're so good. Because even presently, right now, we stiff-necked, we hard-hearted, we practice, which is treacherous iniquity. We twist the scriptures. We work that which is unseemly. We war against and grieve the Ruach as a nation and as individuals regularly, and Yah is still pursuing us. So don't think of it as something that your ancestors had a problem with. Just bring it back to self. All right, so he says literally, you provoke Yah to wrath in the wilderness. From the day that you did depart out of the land of Egypt until you came into this place, you have been rebellious against Yah. Also in Horeb, you provoked Yah to wrath, so that Yah was angry with you to have destroyed you. And when I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, this is Moshe talking, even the tables of the covenant which Yah made with you, then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread nor drink water. Yes, that is completely possible, by the way. And Yah delivered unto me 2 tables, peep this, of stone written with the finger of Elohim. So this idea of this Moses's law, says literally written with the finger, the word there is finger, of Elohim. On them, it says was written, but that's italicized because it's added. On them was written according to all the words which Yah spake with you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. We just came out of Shavuot, so I felt like this was even more pertinent to mention, because literally right coming out of saying, all you said we will do, and we want to be your people, and you are Elohim, and we want to be a peculiar nation. He's like literally coming right out of that. You were rebellious and you were stiff-necked and hard-hearted. So we have to check ourselves too. Verse 11, and it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that Yah gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And Yah said unto me, arise and get thee down quickly from thence, for thy people which you have brought from out of Egypt have corrupted themselves. 40 days, 40 days, 40 days. Peep the 40 days. And even within our own time frame, putting ourselves back into it, be careful. Be careful when you're at the mountaintop, when you've waxed fat, when you've been given great promise, that in a moment of temptation, you don't destroy that. They were quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten image. Furthermore, Yah spoke unto me, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Let me alone that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make thee a nation mightier and greater than they. So I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount burned with fire, and the 2 tables that were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, ye had sinned against Yah your Elohim, and had made you a molten calf. You had turned aside quickly after the way which Yah had commanded you. And I took the 2 tables and cast them out of my hands and brake them before your eyes. And I fell down before Yah as at the first 40 days and 40 nights, and I did neither eat bread nor drink water because of all your sins which ye sin, and doing wickedly in the sight of Yah to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure wherewith Yah was wroth against you to destroy you. But Yah hearkened unto me at this time also. Just briefly going back to Jeremiah chapter 11, remember when Yah tells Jeremiah, don't pray for this people, do not intercede for them, and don't pray for them. It's a perfect example right here of Yah listening to the voice of his prophet and literally heeding and hearkening. Now, we wouldn't be here if Yah hadn't, so I'm not saying, Yah can't do all things, but Yah has a way of working out his plan exactly as it's supposed to. And Yah is so patient and loving that he literally prolonged his plan, peep this, from coming out of Egypt in the Exodus, literally until the time of Isaiah and Jeremiah, when he begins to just completely dismantle Israel and Judah. He still did what was necessary in the chastisement of the people, but the prayer of the prophet and the prayer of his righteous literally put his anger, not necessarily in remission, but it prolonged it so that was space and time and repentance. Because Yah's way in this was right. And so that's why Yah says, don't do it. Because what he's going to show Jeremiah is that in prolonging my judgment, it's going to be to your detriment. And we'll unpack that in a little bit. So he literally says, Moses says, I prayed and he hearkened unto me that time also. And Yah was very angry with Aaron to have destroyed him. And guess what? He prayed for Aaron also that same time. And we know what happened. And then we know the progression of the wicked priesthood, literally all the way up to the time of Jeremiah, where the people are so far gone that they're serving Baal and Ashtaroth like it's nothing. Coming from literally prayer and the sustaining and the ability for Yah to prolong his judgment for the repentance of not only house of Aaron, but of the people who are wicked, who are participating literally right after promising in the sin of the golden calf. They made graven images. And so Moses says, and I took your sin, the calf which you made, and burnt it with fire, and stamped it, and ground it very small, even until it was small as dust. And I cast the dust thereof into the brook that descended out of the mount. And at Tibera, and at Massa, and at Kibroth Hatava, you provoked Yah to wrath. Not just one time, but he like literally lists the locations. Likewise, when Yah sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up and possess the land which I give to you, then you rebelled against the command of Yah, your Elohim. And we go, oh, if Yah told us to go after something that he had promised us, I would go after it. Put you in that position right now. How many times do you talk yourself out of the things that Yah has promised you right in front of you? How many times has Yah said, no, go for it? No, go to that place. No, that's yours. I've given that to you. Do the work, apply, get the job, start the business, do X, Y, and Z. And we go, it's too big. The people too scary. So put yourself back here. Don't go back, but put yourself present in Moses' words. He said, you believed him not, nor hearkened to his voice. Ye have been rebellious against Yah from the day that I knew you. Thus I fell down before Yah 40 days and 40 nights, as I fell down at the first, because Yah had said he would destroy you. I prayed therefore unto Yah and said, O Yah Elohim, destroy not thy people and thy inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through your greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember thy servants. Like he start praying he start drawing on the covenant account. Remember thy servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and look not unto the stubbornness of this people. Apply some of theirs to theirs, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sin, lest the land which thou broughtest us out to say, lest the land whence thou broughtest us out say, because Yah was not able to bring them into the land which he promised them. And because he hated them, he hath brought them out to slay them in the wilderness. Yet they are your people and your inheritance, which thou broughtest out by thy mighty power and by thy outstretched arm. And at that time, Yah said unto me, hew thee 2 tables of stone like the first, and come up to me in the mount, and make thee an ark of wood. And I will, check this, and I will write on the tables the words that were in the first, the tables of the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest. Now, I think at some point I have taught this completely wrong. And I have no shame in admitting when I'm wrong because I'm human. But I think growing up, we were taught the first time, Yah did it. But then the second time, Yah had Moses write them. Moses hewed the stones. Moses never wrote on them. Right here he says, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first. Cut another set. And I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest. So he's talking to Moses. I'm going to write on these ones, the same ones that was on the first ones that you broke. And you shall put them in the ark. And I made an ark of shittim wood and hewed 2 stones like unto the first, and went up to the mount, having the 2 tables in my hand. And he wrote on the tables according to the first writings, the 10 commandments, which Yah spake unto you in the mount of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And Yah gave them unto me. And I turned myself and came down from the mount and put the tables in the ark, which I had made. And there they be as Yah commanded me. And the children of Israel took their journey from Beeroth of the children of Jachem to Mashera. And there Aaron died and he was buried. And he goes on from there. So I pointed that out because we have to see the long suffering of Yah before I read to you how cold-blooded Yah seems in Jeremiah chapter 12. You had to see that because I told you it bothers me that people go, oh, look at Yah, just destructive, and he's just can't forgive the people and they sin. And It's not the case. Yah's been dealing with this since Israel became a nation. Literally, they went down, 70 souls came out a great multitude. This has been an ongoing issue over and over and over again. This is not something new. So when it comes to the wickedness and the lawbreakers, the reason why Jeremiah has an issue, right? He's like, okay, wait, but the wicked are prospering. In Exodus chapter 9:27, Pharaoh speaks and Pharaoh says, I am wicked. And it's interesting because Pharaoh's declaration of his wickedness comes after Yah separates and punishes Pharaoh because of the wickedness of Egypt, but he does not punish Israel. So Jeremiah's understanding is that the wicked don't prosper, they're separated to judgment. He's not off. Psalm 1-4 says, Psalm 1:4 says that the wicked are driven away like chaff. Once again, they're separated, they don't prosper. 2 Chronicles 19:2 said the prophet speaks, Jehu speaks, and he says, as a prophet, and he says, are we supposed to help people that hate Yah? So wickedness should not be met with help. Wickedness should not be met with prosperity. And literally, we see that heritage does not absolve wickedness. Just because Yah is putting them in a position, just because Yah is like in the New Testament, they say, just because he winked at their transgression, the sin in the past, Yah is saying, I fully see it. And now, just like the other nations, it has become full. And Jeremiah is like, but why does it seem like, and the word here for prosper, why does it seem like they have success? And why does it seem like they're at ease then? Why do the people who willingly break your law, why do the nations, why do they seem like they're at ease, that they have success? The word here, it's interesting, in English it's translated in two different places. In 1 Samuel 16:13, it literally is translated as when David receives the spirit of Yah, it says the spirit of Yah rushed upon him. Literally, it means that it prospered him, it came onto him, he succeeded, if you will. It means literally it's settled upon. Why are the wicked settled in their spirit, as it seems to Jeremiah? But then the same exact word is used in 1 Samuel 18:10 when the evil spirit from Yah settled upon Saul. And what's interesting is, from the outside looking in, and for a long period of time, it seemed like Saul was in the right because he had enough people surrounding him to go along with what he was doing. And David was in a position of seeming like he was wicked because he was being pursued and he was living out. And so think of a young prophet like Jeremiah looking and saying, I feel like David, where I'm doing what you tell me to do, yet I'm the one being pursued and killed, being pursued and hunted. But then the people who are doing this to me seem to be at ease. Like, why are you not vexing them like I'm being vexed? Furthermore, your judgment on them is going to affect me. I live here. I live here. This is my home. What you're going to do to them is going to hurt me. He's like, but then they're at ease and I'm over here struggling. It's almost like he couldn't put his mind around it. So the word here is the word shalah. It's shalu here, but it's shalah. And it means, why are they in safety? I'm running for my life. I'm afraid for my life, yet they seem to be not only breaking your law, but there's nothing happening to them. He says, wouldn't it make sense, I'm paraphrasing, for them to be unhappy right now? Like, you're going to punish them in the future with the Babylonians, but wouldn't it make sense to vex them in their spirit? Wouldn't it make sense to set them and put the part of your curses upon them that causes madness and cause them to grope in the daytime so that the people can see the wickedness of the priests displayed in them literally coming all unhinged and falling apart? Wouldn't that make the right sense? Wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't Psalm 122:6 make sense, that those who you love should be at ease and those who are wicked shouldn't prosper? Jeremiah goes, that make no sense to me. And Job pondered the same thing. In Job chapter 12, it's interesting. Job talks about his situation. Job's situation was bad. And Job says, remember, they're coming at him because they're like, how would this happen? You had to have been wrong. If you're not wrong, then why do these people look like they're doing good? It looks like you're suffering. And Job answered and said, no doubt, but ye are the people, and wisdom shall die with you, but I have understanding as well as you. I'm not inferior to you. Yea, who knoweth not such things as these? I am as one mocked of his neighbor, who calleth upon Elohim, and he answered him. The just upright man is laughed to scorn. He that is ready to slip with his feet is as a lamp despised in the thought of him that is at ease. The tabernacles of robbers prosper, and they that provoke Elohim are secure. In whose hand Elohim bringeth abundantly. But ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall teach thee. Or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee. And the fishes of the sea shall declare unto thee, who knoweth not in all these things that the hand of Yah hath wrought this. In whose hand is the soul of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind? Doth not the ear try words, and the mouth taste his meat? With the ancient is wisdom, and in the length of days understanding. With him is wisdom and strength. He hath counsel and understanding. Behold, he breaketh down, and it can't be built again. He shutteth up a man, and there can be no opening. Behold, he upholdeth the waters, and they are dry up. Also, he sendeth them out, and they overturn the earth. With him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. He leadeth counselors away spoiled, and maketh the judges fools. He looseth the bonds of kings, and girdeth their loins with a girdle. He leadeth princes away spoiled, and overturn the mighty. He remove away the speech of the trusty, and taketh away the understanding of the aged. He poureth contempt upon princes, and weakeneth the strength of the mighty. He discovers the deep things out of darkness, and bringeth to light the shadow of death. He increaseth the nations, and destroys them. He enlarged the nations, and straightens them again. He taketh away the heart of the chief of the people of the earth, and causeth them to wander in a wilderness wherein there is no way. They grope in the dark without light, and he maketh them to stagger like a drunken man. Lo, my eyes have seen all this, and my ears have heard and understood it. What ye know, the same do I also, and I am not inferior to you. Surely I would speak to the Almighty and desire to reason with Elohim, but you are forgers of lies, and ye all physicians of no value. Oh, that ye would altogether hold your peace. So you have Jeremiah, and I read Job because it's very interesting that the same thing that Job dealt with, and being in a position of righteousness and being at the hand of Yah's doing and how it was perceived, you have Jeremiah thousands of years later dealing with the same exact thing. It's not the first time that the righteous has attempted to think, reason, be agitated, or question the way they perceived what was happening. I got one more for you, and you'll see this. And I thought it was very interesting, I'm a spoiler alert, that Job mentions that he will take a king and literally pretty much make his mind slip, because it's kind of, it's interesting that Yah's gonna point all this out. And we're gonna get a man, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about him. I'll tell you what his name is. You get a man called Nebuchadnezzar. He's getting ready to come down with Babylon. And I think it's really interesting how Jeremiah in his young prophetic mind is pondering, what could Yah be doing? And why am I dealing with this? And why is this way? And Job has pondered, and David has pondered, and others has pondered. But Yah's plan is so intricate and so big. And you guys have heard me say this, Yah will bend the block in a way that we can't even imagine. And at the end of chapter 12, you'll see a foreshadowing of what that looks like and what Yah is really doing in redemption, and how we, in our own pride, in our own need to somehow advance our position through our identity as Hebrews and as Jews, how we need to put ourselves in a position. And Yah was like, you don't even get it. You'll find yourself opposing me if you don't understand, like Job did, Yah's doing all this. He had to tell them, y'all looking at my life, and I can show you a bunch of things that don't make no sense, but Yah's hand is in it too. All right, so where was I going? So in Jeremiah, we went through Job, and we have this questioning. So Jeremiah goes on, he says, wherefore are they happy that deal very treacherously? He's like, he assumes that they're happy, they're at ease. He says, and you know what? Yeah, you planted them too, and they have taken root and they grow, stripping them out, right? He's like, and they bring forth fruit. Two opposing things are existing at the same time. He's like, see, good and evil. This is tripping me the heck out. I can see literally the evil that's affecting me, but then from the outside looking in, there is also good that's affecting other people. How many teachers, preachers, prophets, Hebrew leaders, mores, moras, do you see that same thing where you're like, okay, I know that is absolute wicked. But if it's so wicked, y'all, well, why are they at ease? Why are they comfortable? Because like for me, if I'm doing something, I don't feel comfortable. Why is there this mixture of things, this mixed multitude of nation? Who are these people that have been prayed for a long time ago and they're still being allowed to prosper? He is baffled, absolutely baffled. He says, you planted them. He's like, you did this. I can see you in it. And he says, and they have taken root and they grow and they bear fruit. He says, but. He says, you are near in their mouth and far from their reigns. Y'all heard that before, by the way. You've heard it before. Isaiah said it. But look how Isaiah says it. Isaiah is previous. He spoke to Israel. So he's previous to Jeremiah. And Isaiah says this. Isaiah says, check this out. Wherefore Yah said, so he's speaking the same thing that Yah said, for as much as this people. Who is this people? That's not Christianity. That's not world religion. That's this people. Draw near me with their mouth, and their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me. And peep this, people get that part, but it's a comma there. That's not period. And their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. So you have this perplexing mixture of sort where he was like, the word is coming out. I hear it. And the people who do take hold of the word and do truly have Yah in their heart, they're affected in a way that they do good and they bear fruit. So then there's a blessing that returns to the person that's teaching, but then also they do wickedness. And he's like, Jeremiah's seeing all of this and he's just like, I'm undone. He says, I don't get it. Psalm 73, the same level of perplexity is here. Says, truly Yah is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. And the writer says, but as for me, my feet were almost gone, and my steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. There it is again. The ease, the unagitation of the purposeful, presumptuous lawbreakers. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore, pride compasseth them about as a chain, and violence cover them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness, and they have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt, and they speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily, and they set their mouth against the heaven, and their tongues walk through the earth. Therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how doth Elohim know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper. They're at ease in the world, and they increase in their riches. Verily, though, I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me until I went to the sanctuary of Elohim. Then understood I therein. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors as a dream when one awakens. He's like, don't think for a second. You are looking at what the put on is, but this is what the reality is. They are utterly consumed with terrors. They're afraid, and they're in a nightmare like somebody that's awake. So, oh yeah, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved. And I was pricked in my reins. He was like, I can't believe I even thought for a second that you didn't care about me and you cared about them. So foolish was I and ignorant. I was a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand, and thou shalt guide me with your counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but Elohim is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that go a-whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to Elohim. I have put my trust in Yah Elohim, that I may declare all your works. Watch Jeremiah now. Now we can go into it, and the rest is obviously going to move really, really quickly. But that background needed to be laid because I think we struggle with feeling these intense emotions, and when Yah allows us to see, sometimes we don't know what to do with what we see. And Jeremiah is a perfect example of coming before Yah with humility, stating what he sees, and then waiting for a response from Yah. But then Yah also showing him the full picture, because Yah does do that sometimes in his mercy when we get into these positions. So Jeremiah says, you planted them, you let them grow, and they speak about you, but they're far from, you're far from their reins. You're far from their will and the seat of their emotion. Then he goes into this. It's going to echo literally everything we just read. So I read it. He said, but thou, O Yah, you know me. Not only do you know me, that's an intimate knowing. The idea, you yada, that is an intimate knowing without reservation. He said, not only do you know me, because I know you know me, because you're a Yah of knowing. He said, but then you've seen me. That means that you literally put your eyes upon me. Literally, it means that stripped and bare before you. You know me and you've seen me. And then this one, and you've tried my heart. You've tried my authority within. So Jeremiah goes on to say, he says, so because you know that, and you know that their wickedness, they're prospering, and it's going to affect me, he says, this is why I love Jeremiah. He says, pull them out like sheep for the slaughter and prepare for them the day of slaughter. Jeremiah, I love him. He was like, get them. You could do it. How about you just pull all the wicked people out and kill them, and then let all of us, if it's just a few of us. He was kind of different than Moses in that way, right? He wouldn't like pray for all of them. Yeah, no, he's like, get them, pluck them out. You see them the same way you see me, prepare them for the day of slaughter. Because he says, they seem like they're not feeling it. But guess what? Everything else around is feeling it. And this is how you're going to get an idea of Jeremiah's vision. Jeremiah is just not seeing that they're prospering, but he also sees that he's suffering. And guess what? When we, Yah's elect, disobey, the whole creation suffers. It's like why Revelation says they're waiting for the revelation of the sons and daughters of Yah. When y'all step into y'all place, it's going to be all right. Because the animals are suffering, the ocean is suffering, everything suffers when we're disobedient. Jeremiah says, how long does the land have to mourn? They at ease, they're prospering, but guess what? The land is mourning. Now think of present time. You have people who are raping the earth, taking monocrop, pesticides, destroying. He's like, why don't you just kill them? The land is mourning. The herbs of the field are withering. Jeremiah's peeping this. For the wickedness of them that dwell therein. Why don't you just get rid of them? Easy. He says, not only that, the beasts are consumed and the birds, all because these people say, he shall not see our last end. He's like, really, the boldness of the wicked, they get to stay at ease and everything else has to suffer. But then look at how great the punishment is. When it's not just that you've done something and you have sinned against Yah, but your sin has also now caused the natural order of things to begin to unravel. You now start tampering with the fabric of the universe by interjecting your sin. If you think I'm playing, just go back to Genesis. So then it doesn't do this, and this next part I told you to go fast. It's very interesting. He's like, why do I have to suffer with them? Because they speak in bold and they say you're not going to see their end. Verse 5 actually is Yah's response. I wish it was separated like that, so that as we read it, naturally, we hear it, we see it, we understand it. So that's how he ends it. He's like, so what is it? Like, why? Yah's response to Jeremiah, and we're all going to go like, whoa, because we've all been here. Yah's response is this. He says, if thou hast run with footmen, and they have wearied thee, then how canst thou contend with horses? And if the land of peace wherein thou trustest, they weary thee, then how will you do in the swelling of Jordan? I told you I read through that like a lot of times. And I'm like, what in the world is Yah saying to Jeremiah? I'm gonna make it plain. He listens to everything that Jeremiah says, very similar to how he responds to Job in a lot of ways. And he says, if the race with your people, with your own family is hard, and you think that's hard, then how you gonna deal with the other stuff that's getting ready to come? If you can't take the oppression from the village people of Anathoth, and you see their prosperity, and that got you all messed up, there are greater challenges to come. So how can you expect to run with horses if you can't run with men who got the same feet as you? Yah was telling Jeremiah, and this is tough for me, oh my gosh. He says, you have to trust me. And you have to learn to draw close to me And you have to learn to be strengthened in this present challenge in order to prepare you for the ones that are going to come. If you find Anathoth to be difficult, how are you going to fare when all of Jerusalem is against you? Just a little bit of foreshadowing. Jeremiah is getting ready to come up against the whole nation. Everyone, I told you that in the beginning, Jeremiah was a failure to everyone. They hated Jeremiah. He says, you got to take it now. But guess what? See, we don't realize this. If you can take it from your family, you can take it from anybody. The rest, not that it doesn't hurt the same. If you can take it from the people within, then what will you care if the ones from without curse you and call you names and say all vile things against you in the name of Yah? I've been here. It never hurts as much as it hurt the first time. It doesn't make it necessarily something you want to do. But there's a wonderful thing that Yah set up in the brain that once a neurological path circuit is created and we make it through the things that we thought we could never make it through before, you can't go through that same thing again and it feel like it did the first time. It never feels like it did the first time. He says, these troubles are a preparation for things, but I need you to trust me. This one right here, he says, and if the land of peace in which you trusted, they wearied you, how will you do in the floodplain? He says, you know, if we complain about the simple things that Yah has already told us to do, then we're not operating in the spiritual strength necessary to do the next thing. Literally, the prophet is emphasizing or speaking of his own weakness. But Yah was saying, guess what? I'm for you, though. I'm for you. The reality is, Yah was like, you have me. He seemed a little afraid of the people. And yeah, they were persecuting him and they were mocking him and they laughed him to scorn. But Yah told him in the beginning, don't worry about them. Don't worry about their words. Don't worry about their faces. Interesting that Yah's response wasn't, you know what, Jeremiah? You know what, forget it. You don't have to do this anymore. He said, I'm allowing this, and what you think is too much is just in doses. Because I need you to be with me all the way through this. Jeremiah, we talked about at the beginning, is going to be Yah's prophet through this whole entire ordeal. Literally until the people are carried away into Babylon. He's also going to prophesy their return. He's going to be through the whole thing. He's like, Jeremiah, I need you to understand something about me and you. What's going on between everybody else? That's what that's their reward. And this has already been talked about a long time ago. But I need you to focus in right here. Because the redemption of my people, thousands of years from now, scattered to the four corners of the world, and your prophecy and your obedience to what I'm showing that spans literally beyond time is so much bigger than people just having something to say about you. I need you to see that. I need you to just, he said, I already told you I was going to deal with him in the day of my judgment. The visitation is coming in twofold. And I know it's a long ways off, and I know you're young, and I know it hurts, and I know it's hard, and I know it's lonely. I get it. He says, but you got to endure. And he says, Yah says in verse 6, for even your brethren. See, you want me to pull apart the people. And you see wickedness around. And yet he said, but guess what? Even your brethren and your father's house, they've done treacherously to you. And not just in a little way. Because I told you that the men of Anathoth want to kill you, your uncles. He said, your father's house, your own siblings. So much so that the multitude that's coming to get you, they called them. And he said, but they speak fair words to you on this side, but actually they're coming up against you. He says, so you don't understand why I can't just pull out some and why I have to do it the way that I'm doing it, because I'm protecting you. Yah goes on to tell Jeremiah, he says, I must bring the enemy because their wickedness won't end. There's no end to it. It goes back a long way. We read all the way in Deuteronomy. He says, we, you, us, we all think of destruction of the world, and we see Yah as being evil and unruly. He says, see, but you don't see the ultimate end. You don't see all the people that are coming against you. So I have to let them do what they're doing to you so that you don't trust them when they speak to you. So you don't trust their counsel. So you don't trust their words. You don't trust their voice. So you don't trust their gifting. So you don't trust their prosperity. So you don't trust their call. So you don't trust the mixture. So you don't trust the words that come off of their lips that are mingled and mixed with gall and wickedness. I have to show you both sides of them so that you always trust me. Because see, they speak fair words to you, but I see that they really intend to kill you. And he goes on to say, now enough about you, Jeremiah. Let me tell you what I have done. He says, see, I have forsaken my house and I have left them. What you see as prosperity, don't trip. I'm not with them. It's just like when you have, if you've ever had a well, I have like a water well, and you don't know the well is dry because you still got a little water in the tank. So it still keep water flowing through the house. And it's not till the tank is empty and you try to pull out of the well that you realize you really didn't have no water. You were just running on what was left in the tank. If you don't have a well, you have a gas tank. You know, when that E-light come on, it's a warning that I'm running and there's fluid running through this engine, but eventually it ain't no more for me to pull on, so this car's gonna stop running. Yeah, I was like, I'm not there no more. I have forsaken mine house and I've left mine heritage, and I've given the dearly beloved of my soul, the one I love, into the hand of her enemies. That's what it is. He says, my heritage is unto me as a lion in the forest. It crieth out against me, and therefore have I hated it. This one was funny looking at the actual literal definition. Literally, you know what it means? And all immediately you're all going to go, duh. You know what that means? It says, she roared in my face. My heritage, my people yelled like a lion in my face. Now, culturally, we have a thing. You gonna roar up against me? Oh, you must be feeling yourself. You gotta go, right? That may not be culturally appropriate amongst everybody, but amongst the scattered and dispersed of the manifold hue of brown in this land, we understand what that means. You in my own forest, you done roared up against me? I have to separate myself from you. You know why? If you don't understand that cultural, contextual moment, I'll kill you. You and like a lion in my forest, eating my antelope and my deer and then you see me and you try to growl at me. All right, maybe y'all don't know lions, maybe you don't know roaring up, but some of you guys have dogs. Have you ever heard the old adage, don't bite the hand that feeds you? So then you get ready to feed your loving dog, and then the dog growls and bites you. Dog gotta die. That's gonna be the last person the dog bites. Now, some of y'all let that dog stay around, and I don't get it. But you barked in my face. I feed you. I pick up your poop. That's why I don't have a dog. I'm doing all this, and you got nerve to bite me and bark at me. I hate you, dog, and you gotta die. It's over for you. Yah is saying, the air in your lungs, I put it there. The house you live in, I gave you the ability and the intellect to build and go after, and I've paved the way. The food you eat comes out of the soil, that I have balanced all the nutrients and all the vitamins to make green cabbage and purple cabbage and red, and you got the nerve in the land of milk and honey eating my figs, milking my goats to roar up against me? Oh, you're done. He said, you know what my heritage is to me? He said, it's like a speckled bird. This is why I tell you guys, you got to get outside and you got to get some eggs, something, talk to somebody, do something natural. It says, my heritage to me is as a speckled bird, and the birds round about are against her. If you've never had chickens, for those of you with chickens, you probably have seen this. Have you ever seen a chicken or a bird? And it happens with other animals, but specifically with birds. If a bird gets a scar, or if a bird has a defect, or even has a certain color, or you put a certain type of bird in with other birds, the other birds will zone in on that and will literally peck it to death. I had a chicken one time that got into the chicken coop, and there's a pecking order. So they do peck, so they peck the feathers, and they normally peck the feathers from around the head or off the bottom of the chicken. And because they'd exposed the red part or the blotchy part, the other chickens were literally pecking it to the chicken was like literally like bleeding. He had to separate that chicken out. He said, my heritage to me is like a speckled bird, like a bird with blood on it. And the birds round about her, come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field and come to devour. He says, your contending with me and your rejection of me has made you like a bird or an animal that's wounded to prey. And now I'm calling the prey to come get you. And he goes on, he says, and many pastors have destroyed my vineyard. Now he's not just talking about pastors who were preaching in church, although contextually it's true, but he's literally talking about those who have seen you and those who have come to glean from you and those who have called to watch over you. They've also been destroying you. And he says, and they have trodden my portion, my desirable part, the part set apart for me, underfoot, and they have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. Says, they have made it desolate, and being desolate, it mourneth unto me. The whole land is made desolate, because no man lay it to heart. This verse right here, I was reading over it earlier, and it's interesting because it's very poetic. You hear Jeremiah saying, you're like, wow. So he's like, Samama, Lishmama, Avla, Ali, Shemema, Nashama. Oh, my screen. Kal haaretz ki ein ish sam alev. He's like, it's almost like he's like, it's a saying, like the thing that caught me was that it rhymes too. He's like, Samama, Lishmama. Like he's like, literally, it's like, it's almost sounds like a chant of like mourning, the way it's even said, even the way it's read. They have made it desolate, and being desolate, it mourneth unto me. Like even the sound of the words for mourning and this thing being made desolate sounds sad. Like Samama, Lishmama, Avla, Ali, Shemema, Nashama, Chal haaretz ki ein ish sam alev. He's like, it literally sounds bad, like the repetition of it. And he's, you know why? Because no person is taking to heart what's really happening. The spoilers come up upon all high places through the wilderness, for the sword of Yah shall devour from one end of the land, even to the other end, and no flesh shall have peace. It's interesting because the way that the priests have treated Judah is how the other nations will treat them. Somehow we can't see the injustice until the wicked do it to us. Then all of a sudden we see how wicked something is. See, we don't see the transatlantic slave trade. We don't see the scattering to the four corners of the world. We don't see the destruction of Jerusalem. We don't see these things correctly because we focus on the action instead of the causation. Yeah, I was like, you're not taking it to heart. You're not taking into reality why what happened. You're not taking to heart why Babylon is coming, why you are desolate, why you are being pursued. How about this? I'll make it plain. For those of us of the melanated hue, we sell crack to our neighbors and in our neighborhood, drugs, whatever is popular these days. We feed carcinogens currently to our children. We scam our own. And then we go into an uproar against pharmaceutical companies and vaccinations. Just like we can resist experimental drugs, we could have resisted selling crack. We could have resisted pushing drugs. We could have resisted eating pork. And we could have resisted taking the things that we got in captivity and then putting them back in our community. People were so bold during the pandemic. I will not. But then we say, oh, but the white man brought the drugs into the hood and these people, but you resisted when you want to. You know why? Because we benefit. And when we benefit, we don't care. Yah says nobody's taking it to heart. So you want to call wicked from without. But we don't want to talk about the wickedness within. So you can point out the wickedness of the Western construct of religion, and you can point out the wickedness of Christian denominations, but you won't point out the wickedness within. You know why? Because you benefit. Well, at least they tell people who the people are. Oh, because you benefit. Your pride benefits. I can't speak out against them because then people gonna think that we just as bad as Christianity. Oh, because you benefit. You benefit from it. And that's the difference. Yah was like, you don't see it. You don't see how in your actions, you are a part of making the desolate desolate. You're a part of the mourning process too. We only see wickedness when wickedness is enacted upon us, which is why the punishments that we receive as a nation have to do with the wicked doing to us what we did before Yah. And if you don't think that's how Yah saw it, just let's keep reading. The spoilers are come upon all the high places through the wilderness, for the sword of Yah shall devour from one end of the land into the other end, and no flesh shall have peace. They have sown wheat, but they shall reap thorns. They have put themselves to pain, but shall not profit, and they shall be ashamed of your revenues because of the fierce anger of Yah. He says, you're going to do work and get nothing out of it. You know why? Because you're doing it in vain. It's like praying, but the prayer is not accepted. It's like planting and reaping nothing. It doesn't make any sense. But the reason why it doesn't is because you're painting yourself, you're grieving yourself, but you're not grieved for your actions. You're grieved because of the outcome. You look around right now and we're grieved because of the outcome, but we're not grieved about what got us here because we keep doing the same things that got us in the position that we are in right now. Tilling the ground and praying, grieving. And what you're going to do when you go to pull the harvest, it's going to be shameful because Yah is against you. Yah never wanted us to forget that the reason why we have what we have and the reason why we don't have what we don't have is because of a direct connection between us and him. Our relationship with him is the reason why. The brokenness of that relationship is the evidence within the community. Interesting to me that people ask all the time, what should we do to help the Black community? So-called Black people. What should we do to help the disenfranchised? What should we do to help those scattered to the four corners of the earth? What should we do? Tell the truth. Because you have people now sitting around and you're reaping thorns and you're putting yourself to pain and you think you're doing it in all the wrong directions. And you know why nobody stops it? Because the people are benefiting from it. The people are benefiting. Okay, we'll get back to that later. So verse 14, thus saith Yah against all my evil neighbors. About to wrap it up. So Yah goes in, he answers Jeremiah, and it's interesting because when Yah answers, he answers correctly, always. He gave us more than we probably wanted to chew on from the original question that Jeremiah had. He gave the full picture. He's like, y'all sowing and reaping thorns. These people coming in from this way. The land is desolate. But this part right here, I told you, is going to make everybody uncomfortable. So Yah says all this, gives Jeremiah, he's like, everything's coming down. Verse 14. Thus saith Yah, though, against all my evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I cause my people Israel to inherit. This is against the nations that come up against Israel now. He's like, I told y'all what they did, and I told y'all what I'm going to do. Yah speaks to the neighbors who will not just touch his inheritance. The word here should actually be who strike them violently. Yah said against the evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I cause my people Israel to inherit. So Jeremiah has two wickednesses. I told you, he's looking at the wickedness of his own people, but then he's also looking at how the wicked are going to prosper off his own people. So then Yah tells him, you got to prophesy this part too, because Yah is so loving that he leaves nothing loose-ended. Nothing is left loose-ended. He says, let me tell you what's going to happen when the nations hold up my compassion by keeping my people abominable. Like he just, I told you, he's like, I answered this, and now I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to read it one more time. Thus saith Yah against all mine evil neighbors that violently touch the inheritance which I cause my people Israel to inherit. Behold, I will pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Judah from among them. And it shall come to pass, after I have plucked them out, I will return and have compassion on them and bring them again, every man to his heritage and every man to his land. And it shall come to pass, if they will diligently, they being the evil neighbors. And it shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, to swear by my name, Yah liveth, as they taught my people to swear by Baal, then shall they be built in the midst of my people. But if they will obey not, I will utterly pluck up and destroy that nation, saith Yah. Now I know people are like, oh, and that's where will the lost me? Delete. Check this out. Yah literally goes to the end of this and tells the nations. And it's funny because me and a sister of mine were talking briefly between Zephaniah and Zechariah. And Yah says something. So I'm going to give you what Yah says, and y'all can wrestle with this on your own, because this is where we're going to kind of wrap it up. Yah goes on and gives the nation, through the prophet Jeremiah, what their punishment upon Yah's people should look like. To trip y'all out, because we always think of the nations being called to chastise as that nation being opposing to Yah. Yah goes on to say, in this case, we know who the nation is, it's Babylon coming. He says, let me tell you how this chastisement, how I've told Babylon this is supposed to go. I'm going to allow you to violently touch in your own evilness, because you're dysfunctional, the inheritance of my people, because they're in trouble. And then I'm going to pluck them out. And then I'm going to return them. I'm going to have compassion upon them. And I'm going to bring every man to his heritage. I'm going to give back to them everything that's theirs. You can't hold on to it. You're going to touch it. You can't keep it. And every man his land. You're going to give it back. Now keep this. If you, though, you evil neighbor, will learn the ways of my people, if you will join in yoke with them and swear by my name, Yahweh, Yah lives, and if you will stop teaching my people the way of Baal and help them to learn my ways in the same way that you went to turn them away, he says, I'll build you up in the midst of my people. Like, oh, Jeremiah smoking. Like, at that moment, what? This is what you heard from Yah? This is what Yah is saying? Yah said, this is what I said. But guess what? If they won't obey, I will utterly destroy, I will utterly pluck up and destroy that nation. So there's two things happening here. One, we're getting a glimpse in. Yah literally laid out a picture. He was like, see, you think in what I'm doing that I haven't surveyed the whole thing. My goal has been, and my goal will always be, for my namesake. Israel was supposed to be a nation that showed forth the goodness of Yah and drew the other nations in. He's like, I didn't abandon mission. You're going to do it by hook or crook. You're going to either do it by being obedient and drawing them, or I'm going to use your disobedience and I'm going to draw the people that I'm going to draw. That's going to be what it's going to be, period. Now, for the nations, I'm allowing this to happen. But see, something interesting happens to certain nations and certain people. See, they get greedy. And you don't want to give up your privilege. You don't want to give up that period in time where you were allowed to have and you were allowed to do. And see, Yah has something to say about that too. In Zechariah chapter 1, let's go there. Yah says, now this is interesting, two things. I'm going to spoiler alert. Those of you who read ahead, it's okay. For those of you who are waiting for it, we'll get to it. Two things have happened. One, Yah calls Nebuchadnezzar, he says, he calls him his servant. Very interesting. So if you read the scripture, like I was telling you in the beginning, and you hear some of these things and you go, oh, if you read through and you see how things are set up, you're like, oh, snap. Yah was doing something to Nebuchadnezzar too. You know, the one that grew hair like a beast and ate from the ground because he didn't, and Yah made him proclaim his name. That was in some of the passages we read earlier. It was in Job, right? Yah raises up kings and puts them down. That's going to come up later on too. All right. This is true. This is a true thing that Yah does this. It's a true thing that Yah does. In knowing that Yah also, in using a nation, allows space and redemption for that nation, is a Yah beyond me. It's a Yah beyond me, right? Yah also prophesies of King Darius coming and returning the people and giving them substance to rebuild their land way before the captivity. Yah has done all this ahead of time. So Yah has like literally he already knew what was happening, but also has a plan for redemption. But check this out. The issue though, the issue that Yah has with the nations who don't, and you should read through all this. We go down to verse right here, verse 15. I will go to 14. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, cry thou saying, thus saith Yah of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem. Now there's not no weird jealousy. This is the word kana. The idea of this type of jealous is like a chick, a hen that broods over her nest and her chicks. You know what a brooding hen is? You got to look it up. When you go to reach into a nest, when a chicken is broody, the chicken will attack you or peck you to keep you from taking its chicks. So Yah is like, I am broody, if you will. for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy, with a great broodiness. I am very much trying to keep those who want to steal and take from her away. Difference is she keep letting them in. That's a whole nother thing. But he goes on, he says, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. Jeremiah, I'm not okay. I'm not okay with nothing that's happening. Yah is not okay with anything that's happening to his people. He said, oh, they are at ease. You know why? For I was but, you heard how Yah said the punishment was supposed to go. You're going to come in. I'm going to let you violently touch the inheritance, but this is what I'm going to have compassion, and I'm telling you, you're going to give it all back. He says, but see, I was a little displeased, and they helped forward my affliction. They helped forward the affliction. That's the problem. You took it too far. And what you did was you conspired and said, I don't want to give it back. I don't want to give the jewels back. I don't want to give the land back. I don't want to give their inheritance back. I'm going to give it to who I want to give it to. And I'm only letting the people I want to let in. And he said, Babylon, that's not how it's supposed to go. See, Darius like, yeah, I spoke about me. I like this. This modern Babylon has a different mindset. I've been on top too long. What does it look like me giving, this is funny, giving them what's theirs back? Now, once you've held on, once Yah's compassion has been restored to his people, now you're holding on to stolen goods, stolen people, stolen land, stolen inheritance. And now destruction has to come. People wonder why in the Revelation Babylon has to fall. Babylon has to fall because Babylon does not want to give up Babylon's privilege. You were given a span in time, and you've advanced this affliction. Yah's compassion has returned to his people that have been scattered to the four corners of the world, yet you have to keep them still oppressed because their oppression has been to your benefit. And it's the same way that we had to see that wickedness exercised upon us to understand the necessity to wake up in the lands of our captivity across the four corners of the world and say, we have to return. And as we return, the scripture says that Yah would hear us, Yah would see us, and as we seek to do his will in the lands in which we've been carried, not only would he turn our captivity, but then the other people would see our captivity being turned. But the adversary knows that if the other people see the restoration, not just of cultural knowledge, but of mind and body and spirit, and also land and heritage, that they will then turn back. So the people said, oh no, we can't do that. We got to keep it going. We have to keep it concealed. We'll just take it to the end. So now you see why the book of the Revelation has to exist. Because they hold the heritage of Yah in their midst and they won't let go. Yah said, that's not how it's supposed to be, Babylon. You were supposed to then turn and see that they were mine. And then you were supposed to stop your Babylonian ways. Stop teaching them your Babylonian religion and your Babylonian mysticism and all your Babylonian ideologies. You were supposed to cease. You were supposed to yoke with them. You were supposed to swear by my name that I am Yah and I live. And if you want to know, if you want to just read ahead, Nebuchadnezzar does it. It's a perfect foreshadow of what the nation was supposed to do. But guess what? He had to be brought low. And he said, oh, surely the God of Israel is the Elohim of Elohim. Surely he must be. He had to confess it because Babylon must confess it. And it's not just the confession, but they also have to return all the things, you have to give it back. Babylon holds it all. You knew who it was when you came and got them. Yah says, I know how you knew because I sent you. I told you exactly who to get. I said, now pick them up from here, 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 and here, and scatter them here, 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 and here. And they're going to go here, 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 and here. And it's all laid out. So then give them back their stuff because my compassion has been returned. And submit yourselves and join yourselves one to another and call on my name. So we won't. He says, okay, then I'll destroy you. And that's what it is. Because you, just like we couldn't make a liar out of Yah, Babylon can't make a liar out of Yah. And Yah had to write in that he said he would do it so that Babylon and their daughters and sons later on couldn't come back and say, well, he never said we had to give it back. He just told us to go. That wasn't it. He said, when my compassion returns, you start giving them their stuff back. You then need to see this as a signal of you getting it together, because then my judgment is coming upon you. You might want to get in the midst of my people so that just like when people see us, they see Yah's redemption and Yah's salvation surrounding us. When you get in the midst of my people, I'll see them and them join with you, and I won't destroy you for what you've done to them. You cannot exist separate from my people. It can't work like that. You have to be in the midst of them. That's why in the Brit Kadashah, it's like, we are in Hamashiach. Why? Because you fell. I need to see my redemptive work before I see you. The same way the nations have to be in the midst of his people, built up according to that same way, so that when Yah, before Yah sees them, he sees us. And we've already been told in Deuteronomy, if you read through it, we can't abhor the stranger. We have to remember that we were oppressed. We have to remember what we've got, and we have to remember who we are. It's so much bigger than knowing that you're Israel so that you can get things. Our job on this planet has always been to show the redemptive work of Yah. That has been our job. The people who are the most oppressed, the most talked about, the most put down, are constantly doing the highest level of redemptive work because it's directly connected to our connection to a divine Elohim. We cannot abhor the stranger. We cannot do those things because then it shows people something that is untrue about Yah, and it sends us right back into the same problems over and over again. I'm going to end with this because this has been on my mind. I was reading a book recently, and irregardless of any of her other beliefs or anything, Toni Morrison said a really pivotal thing, and she said the difference between every other nation and the so-called Black people is this: every people on the planet, hear me clearly, have been enslaved. Slavery is not unique to the diaspora. Everybody has. There was there was a system of caste system and serfs and servitude and bondage. And sometimes you could not buy your freedom. I've heard people say that, well, they could just buy it out. No, sometimes you were born into a caste system and forever you were the bottom and these people were the top. And that lasted throughout the whole time of that kingdom. People have been killed, the Muslims enslaved, the Christians enslaved, Europeans enslaved, the Irish were oppressed. People have been oppressed. The difference between Black or the African-American experience, chattel slavery, the Black body, and everyone else is this: when you look at an Irishman, you don't see a slave. When you look at those people who were held in a caste system in European America, and in British colonial times, and in Britain, and when you look in Spain and Portugal, and when you look at the Moors, and you look at the different groups, and you look at the Indo-Europeans, and you look at the Romans, and you look at their systems, when you see the Roman now, you don't see a slave. When you see a person from India come to the US, you don't see a slave. You don't look on them and see a slave. But when you look at the so-called Black body, even not being enslaved, you still see and you still call them the children of ex-slaves, because it benefits the system to continue to see this particular people this way, so that every generation that comes along remembers to oppress them, so you do not have to restore the compassion, the inheritance, the heritage, and the land back to this particular people group. Because if we stop seeing them as slaves, then everything that we have stays with us. And it is because of this particular viewpoint and vantage point that I am unapologetically focused on the redemption, the compassion, and the necessity of restoration prescribed in Scripture for this particular group in the diaspora, because every other group on the planet, when they see us, they still see the mark, because they have to be reminded to not restore us, because it then requires them to have to serve our Elohim. Jeremiah got to see the whole thing. He was like, I know what you see. I know you see the wicked prospering. I know you think they're at ease. But believe you me, that they have advanced my anger. They have kept it way too long. And that's why destruction is coming. The same way that Israel had the opportunity to stay their destruction by returning back to Yah, is the same way that all the nations all over who hold treasure and who hold the people of Elohim and keep them out of their land have the same responsibility. And just like Israel did not, then guess what? Babylon came like a swift lion with eagle's wings to destroy. But it's not Babylon that's coming to destroy the other nations. It's the King of Kings and the Master of Masters, who will then trample every nation underfoot to do as he said he would, because Yah is not a man that he can lie. It would be better to deal with a little bit of mourning by having to give over what you think is yours and having it all restored back to you by serving Yah, than to contend and fight with the living Elohim. There is no fight. It's already been spoken. It's already been prophesied. And a young man by the name of Jeremiah, who was weary from looking at just his own running with footmen, spoke to the restoration of us right now and what Yah would do moving forward. Shalom.